Hello, and welcome to Romanticism, my favorite art form. Yes. And so, in a nutshell, what is Romanticism? Well, I've tried to explain it up here, but the key word in Romanticism is emotion. Yes. And Romanticism is a type of art that wants to evoke an emotional response from the person who is viewing the art or reading the book or listening to the music, for example. Yes, for example, Bach in his Toccata and Fugue was a romantic artist. Pardon me. So let's begin, shall we, by looking at some examples of romantic art that I just happen to have. Isn't that wonderful? Oh my, let's begin. I have so many of them. Begin here. And that is not one. Goodbye. So uh, let's begin. No, she's not one either. And I shouldn't have left Louis the 16th there either. That's not one. This one you are already familiar with. Let's see, how did I do this? Oh, click on it. Yes. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mr. Horton.
Good afternoon. Yeah, this once again from you should know this from the last test on the French Revolution. This is the Death of Marat. The artist Jacques Louis David. The painting is intended for you to sympathize with the death of this person, and I mean, it's a painting. Who knows what he really looked like after he was stabbed? Probably not anywhere near this tranquil. And also, probably the scene wasn't, it was probably nasty and wakala, Spanish students. Oh, yes. And so, but the artist, Jacques Louis David, wants you to feel sorry for him by posing him to look like Christ in the Pietà. And so, yeah, that's one. Let's look at another, shall we? Now, this one, and I know I've shown you some of these before. This one comes from the James Fenimore Cooper book, Last of the Mohicans, and it is the pivotal scene in Last of the Mohicans where Hawkeye, rather, where you see Uncas. This is Uncas here, the half brother, not the half brother, the adopted brother of Hawkeye, the main character, is killed by Magua, the antagonist, and here is young Alice Monroe. She throws herself to her death rather than allow Magua to take her with her. And see, that's emotion. That's what this is supposed to reflect, emotion. And so, yes, let's get rid of that. Let's get rid of that. The next one. Yes, this is one you haven't seen, I guarantee you. Now, I don't know the name. I saw this one in the Cincinnati Art Museum. I did take note of the name of the painting. The name of the painting is Ire, Eire. If you don't know what that means, it means Ireland. This lady, this woman here, symbolizes Ireland, the Irish people. Notice a couple of things. Number one, she plays this is the symbol of Ireland. The lyre, not the shamrock, is the symbol of Ireland. It is this. If you look at a euro that's utilized in Ireland, on one side it has the E, which stands for the European Union, and on the other it has the symbol of any country. And Ireland has the lyre, the harp. And notice what makes it romantic, Mr. Horton? Well, of course, here this poor innocent woman is dressed in white. Is notice that she is chained to the rock. that symbolizes the struggle of the Irish people being placed in bondage by the British. Yeah, that's a romantic painting. And yeah, it's over at the museum, Cincinnati Art Museum, where I find it. Yes. Okay, let's look at another one, shall we? I've already seen you. Thank you so much. Now, this is one of the more famous ones I did go over before when we talked about Napoleon. This is by Francisco Goya, a Spanish painter. This is called The Executions of the 3rd of May. And actually, once again, there was another painting that preceded it called The 2nd of May. And the 2nd of May shows a bunch of Spanish guerrillas ambushing a French cavalry unit. And this is Execution of the 3rd of May. It shows the retaliation for that act. And these people are just peasants, village peasants. And once again, Goya takes and does a couple of things. Number one, notice that he makes all the French soldiers faceless so that you don't see them. You don't see their faces. That means that kind of takes away their humanity. And over here, you see, of course, a number of people already shot, and also these people waiting to be shot, and of course, the people who are about to be shot. But of course, your eye is drawn here. The man in the white shirt. Notice, and once again, notice his arms outstretched. Goya wants you to compare that to the pose of Christ on the cross. He's wearing a white shirt, which conveys innocence, and so, but Goya wants you to feel sympathy for these Spanish peasants who are about to be shot down in the firing squad during the French occupation of Spain. Okay, and so let's go here. One more. Oh, yes. This is one of my favorites. It is by another romantic artist, Eugene Delacroix. And this one is in the Art Institute of Chicago. And we have to get a close-up to see it. I wish I'd have taken a better picture of the painting and a less better picture of me. And so, yeah, this is called The Lion Hunt. And see, right, it doesn't do it justice, but, this is the essence of a romantic painting. Notice that all the characters here, you have a lion here, a lion here, you have 2 horses, and you have a number of people of Arab descent. I mean, you see this here. Here, this one Arab person is pinned to the ground by a lion, and you see everybody is in, mid-strike or mid-bite or mid, the horse is pinned to the ground. You see the horse's screaming face. This guy's about to stab the lion. These guys are about to stab the lion. This guy has a cutlass. He's about to run the lion through. And, it's, catches everything just mid-action. And here it's supposed to evoke, emotion of excitement, of drama, of what's going to happen next. And yeah, it's romantic, Okay. This one, another famous one, which we have not looked at yet unless you've actually been in my classroom. This is called Napoleon Crosses the Alps by Jacques-Louis David. Once again, the official painter of the French Revolution. A man who admitted that he literally was in love with Napoleon. Loved his face, loved everything about him. Pardon me, I imbibe, won't you? I'm talking and I need it. Now, so what makes this painting romantic? Well, once again, it's called Napoleon Crosses the Alps. Look, I mean, Napoleon, and you can see back here, you can see the wheels of artillery, some of his men marching up the mountain. And you see Napoleon, of course, on a white horse. And they're going up the Alps on this trail. And notice that the wind is blowing. See how Napoleon's cape is whipping. And Napoleon is controlling this horse with only one hand. And he's not looking at the fact, notice this horse's hooves are literally inches away from a cliff. Yeah, he takes one step back and you know, his next stop will be probably about 100 feet below. Neither would survive. But see, that's what makes it so courageous. And Napoleon urging his men over, over the mountain, over the Alps into Italy to conquer Italy. And it's a romantic painting. For the record, Napoleon did cross the Alps on the back of a mule. Mules are steady. Now, why didn't Jacques-Louis David paint Napoleon on the back of a mule? Yeah, it wouldn't really have the same effect. Remember, the point of romantic art is to elicit emotion. Okay, so yes, Napoleon crosses the Alps. Or if you come to my room, Horton crosses the Alps. Okay, let's look at a couple more, shall we? Now, this one, you know what's funny? I don't even know the title. And so why do you have it? And why are you showing it to us, Mr. Horton? How do you know it's a romantic painting? I took this one off of an AP Euro test. Yeah. And it said, what artistic movement is represented here? Well, this is a perfect example of Romanticism showing, what is that? That's an old graveyard, and all the trees are dead, and the only thing that stands there is, just a portion of the wall of a church. That place is definitely haunted, and that's what the artist wants you to believe. It's romantic. It emits emotion of fear of the macabre, the supernatural. Remember again that Frankenstein is a romantic novel because it's about the supernatural, but it's also about vengeance. Dr. Frankenstein actually goes out to try and kill his monster. That Dracula is a romantic novel by Bram Stoker. Yes, it is. Because once again, it's about the macabre, it's about the supernatural. Edgar Allan Poe, Miss Johnson's favorite writer. She doesn't like Dickens. I like Dickens. By the way, last night I watched one version of Dickens' A Christmas Carol. And it was a very old version, not even a very good version. Still, I enjoy it. So, yeah, this is Romanticism. And I'm telling you, I've seen this several times on AP, this image right here. A couple more. Now, this is a romantic picture. It's called The Wanderer Above the Mist, and I don't remember the artist's name, but it's also very famous. It's by a German artist. And here, in this picture, a gentleman is walking, over a mountain, and he just takes a moment to look out over the edge and admire nature. It's called The Wanderer Above the Mist. And yeah, it's one of the most famous romantic paintings. But once again, what makes it romanticism? It's, extols the beauty of the wild of nature. Okay? I mean, part of going back to James Fenimore Cooper's Last of the Mohicans, what makes that a romantic novel? It does. It spends a lot of time glorifying nature, glorifying Native Americans as superior human beings to the Europeans because, they're very simple creatures, or portrayed as simple creatures, who don't have yet bowed to the powers of greed. Okay. And so, yeah, one more, and that is this one. Washington crosses the Delaware. A romantic painting yet again. Why is it romantic? Well, for one thing, nobody stands up in a boat. This boat is very dangerous. It's obviously overloaded. Notice they're surrounded by giant chunks of ice, any one of which could poke a hole in that boat and send Washington and his men to an icy grave. And, but yeah, notice that he doesn't care about that. He's standing up and in a bold pose and like looking forward. going to attack the Hessians. And so, yeah, this is romantic. It depicts the hero, George Washington as the hero. Yeah, romantic painting. Okay, so those are some examples of Romanticism. So let me see, what do we have now? We have Italian Renaissance, Northern Renaissance, Baroque, Rococo, which is the one that uses lots of pastel colors, Neoclassicism, and now Romanticism. The Romantic period, as you're going to find out, goes from about the latter part of the 18th century. We're starting talking about basically around the French Revolution, 1870. I'm sorry, 1775 to about 1850. Yeah, about 1850. The next artistic period, and by the way, you start finding out that the artistic periods start coming faster and lasting for shorter periods of time as we get on into the 19th and into the 20th century. We go from realism to impressionism to post-impressionism to cubism. I mean, like, yeah. And so, yeah, excellent. All right, let's look at our study guide, shall we? I'll pull this up and give you a minute too. Roman numeral 21. And we don't need that anymore. Thank you. All right. Romanticism is a reaction against the force of the Enlightenment. Remember, the Enlightenment was all about, the entire universe has to make sense. The entire universe is logical. The entire universe, everything operates according to logic. Well, Romanticism says, no, it doesn't. There are lots of things that do not fit that mold. Romantic thinkers refuse to consider human beings as strictly rational. Because human beings are not rational. So many of the things that human beings do are irrational. And that's an accepted idea that human beings are irrational. For example, and this is off the subject, but it might help you understand. For example, if I were to, walk up to you and punch you in the mouth, and you just happen to have a 357 Magnum in your back pocket, and you pulled out that Magnum and you put a giant hole in me and ended my life right there. That act, now, such an act, you kind of border on legality, illegality there, of reaction, self-defense, and all that kind of business. However, in other words, you probably would get maybe almost nothing, depending on what state you were in, Texas. But if you were then, I punch you in the mouth, and then you go, ow, and then you go home, get in your car, go home, and there, out of your desk, you pull out Mr. 357 Magnum. You bring Mr. 357 back to where I am, and you shoot me in my smiling face and kill me. Then you got problems. Why? Because it's premeditated. It is not an act of passion. You see, human beings have passion. Human beings are irrational. Human beings are not rational. All right, but if you have time to think about it, you think about it on the way home, you think about it on the way back. See? They, the Romantics, wanted to interpret both physical nature and human society in organic rather than mechanical terms. The Enlightenment philosophers had criticized religion, and the Romantics said that religion was basic to human nature and faith as a means to knowledge, from 1780 to 1830. Let's consider the Romantic era. Now, do you have to remember those dates? And are they exact? No, they're not exact. They're not exact. You have to remember them, but ballpark them. For example, St. Peter and Chains Church is an example of neoclassical art, and it was built in 1840. And so, these artistic movements overlap a bit. You just have to have your head around approximately where they are. So, let's consider the Romantic era or the Romantic movement. Romantics urged a return to religion and also liked the art and architecture of the medieval age. An example of Romantic architecture, and I don't have a picture of it, but Parliament, the Parliament of England. Yeah, Parliament of England was built in the 19th century, and they built it to make it look like a medieval castle. With spires and all these kind of things. Yeah, a Gothic structure. Was that the art of the 19th century? No, but they hearkened back. It was a romantic idea. As it says there, the architecture of the medieval age. Romantics admired dreams. Yeah, dreams, hallucinations, and other things that did not fall in line with logic. Such as Johann Goethe's Faust, which we'll talk about later on. Anyway, Romanticism is an offshoot of the individualism of the Renaissance and the Reformation, the poeticism of the 17th century, and also the 18th century Methodist movement. Yeah, the Methodist movement, this new church, this new faith we're talking about, which originates in England, which focuses on not the function, the routine of the Roman Catholic Church, quiet worship, but the Methodist movement is all about hooping and hollering and showing emotion. And the Baptist movement is part of that. Samuel Richardson's Clarissa, a book emphasizing emotion and feeling. Have I read it? No. And by the way, make sure, I think that I mentioned my good friend. I don't have him here. My good friend Charles Dickens. Yeah. I was, like I said, I was watching Christmas Carol last night, and Charles Dickens originally wrote Christmas Carol as a pamphlet. He was going to write a pamphlet that he would then, give out to people. And the name of the pamphlet, I don't know the exact name, but basically, the purpose of this pamphlet he was writing was to make the people of England feel compassion for the working poor. And in it, the idea that employers should treat their employees with justice and not just, make as much money as they could out of them and then not care about them. But yeah, Charles Dickens in A Christmas Carol, Charles Dickens in Great Expectations. Yeah, he takes the part of the working poor. But anyway, Charles Dickens in A Tale of Two Cities. I mean, they're all emotional. So Jean-Jacques Rousseau and Immanuel Kant questioned the logic of the Enlightenment. Rousseau wrote Emile, which was a treatise on education, and stressed the difference between children and adults and said that children are the purest form of human beings. As it says that she felt children should be raised with a maximum amount of individual freedom, that children are pure, born pure. Said that man was innately good, but the society corrupted him as he went around impregnating women and then dropping off the children at foundling hospitals and going on to impregnate the next woman. Immanuel Kant. Okay, this guy's name is on your test. Immanuel Kant, and this will be the last thing we talk about today, wrote the Critique of Pure Reason and the Critique of Practical Reason. He said that the human mind did not simply reflect the image of the world, but by emotion and reflection enhance it. Okay, Immanuel Kant comes up with a philosophy of the Romantic period called the categorical imperative. What is the categorical imperative? And I read and read and read, and I couldn't figure it out. It's actually rather complex, but look what I say here. Refer to a situation in which one would have all other people always act in the same situation. You say, what does that mean? And yeah, you better make notes on this. The categorical imperative is the idea in other words, what are you allowed to do? What are moral actions? How do you define morals? And Immanuel Kant says this, that you can do, so you're asking yourself this question. I want to do some particular thing, but I don't know if it's a moral thing or not. And Immanuel Kant says the thing is considered moral if everyone else in the world could do the same thing. But if one person in the world could not do it, would not be allowed to do it, would be considered wrong to do it, then what you're considering doing is wrong. Yeah. Okay? Do you understand? Something is considered moral if anyone could do the same thing and not be prevented from doing that because there'd be a question about the morality of it. On the basis of man's moral reason, Kant postulated the existence of God, external life, and future rewards and punishments. Yeah, this is a reaction. This is not the old Enlightenment idea of God being the clockmaker, of God not caring about what happens on earth. He's going the other direction. Romantics believe in a special power in the human mind that could penetrate beyond the limits of largely passive human understanding, as set forth by Hobbes, Locke, and Gordon Hume. And you know what? We're going to end there today. That's it. Fix that. Okay. Yeah, we're going to end that. And if you notice, we don't have a whole lot of this chapter yet. So we're going to be looking down a test before we go home for break. How am I ever going to get all this stuff graded? I don't know. Yeah, test. It's AP Euro, guys. So yeah, see you tomorrow.